This is the Surly Grognards for February 9th, 2015. This is Peter Bowman, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Eric Carlson. How are you doing tonight, Eric?
I'm doing all right. I've got 2 snow days, and that means the rest of the week is gonna fucking blow.
It's been snowing a fuck ton here in Boston.
Yeah, it has.
Holy fuck. I read a story online today. Apparently, over the last 30 days, we've actually gotten more snow than we've broken the record that was set in 78.
Really?
Yes.
That's
terrifying.
Wow, you got a lot in 78.
Well, 78
says the guy who was totally there, not born the year after.
I was there for that, but I was like 4, so I was 4.5, basically. Basically 78 had the gigantic blizzard, and then not a ton more snow during that period.
Right. We've just had a lot of impressive snowstorms.
We just like a snowstorm, then another snowstorm, then another snowstorm. There's not one
It should be like, and Monday will be a terrible snowstorm. And that seems to be the way it's been for the past, month.
Basically, we've been getting a big storm once a week, and then a smaller storm later that week. For the past 3 weeks.
And it's always like Sunday or Monday where we have the big storm.
Yeah, it's
weirdly consistent.
Yeah. And this may mean that we don't have our usual Tuesday game this week.
Again.
Because if the tea is going to be slow and crappy, I'm not traveling that. No. It's a long enough trip without the tea being on a slow schedule.
The trip out there wouldn't be so bad, but the trip back.
Hell fucking no.
Fuck the trip back, man.
Ugh.
That trip back will yeah.
Yeah, no. Not happening. We'll see what happens, but yeah.
We'll see what happens, but I just got a call not 10 minutes ago saying don't bother show up tomorrow.
For work, yeah.
So...
All right, so what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be probably talking about a couple of things. It depends on how long we talk about the first topic, which could go on for a while, honestly.
Yeah.
So what we were sort of noodling on the topic, and it occurred to me that one thing I want to talk about a bit, and I figured, I want to bounce ideas off of Eric on this, and I figured, why not on the show? It might be useful to some people. Is over the past 5 or so years, I've been working on writing a tabletop miniatures game for mech combat. Giant robots blowing each other up. Because I love giant robots that blow each other up.
Giant robots are fucking awesome.
Exactly. And I like Battletech a lot. But I wanted a mech combat game that played faster.
Yeah, because Battletech is a slow game. Especially given, each turn is supposed to be 3 seconds of real time, but I've seen them last several hours.
Battletech, it's a very detailed game in terms of the way you deal damage and such.
Which is why I personally feel it's much better as a mech combat element in a RPG than it is as a tactical war game.
I can understand that. I sort of feel it go both ways on that. The sort of similar thing for Starship Combat would be Starfleet Battles, although that's actually a better designed tactical war game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've only played Starship Battles once. It was one ship on one ship.
Well, that's what Starfleet Battles is best at.
Yeah,
it really does that brilliantly.
I don't even remember what I played. I probably assisted on the Bird of Prey or a Klingon battle cruiser.
You almost certainly the general tutorial is a Fed cruiser versus a Klingon battle cruiser.
Then I was probably playing the battle
probably
cruiser.
The Klingon.
Because fuck yeah, Klingons.
They're good in that game. I will say this, but Starfleet Battles is a really, really well-balanced game. It's also really complicated and very, very difficult.
Ooh.
Not just because the rules are complicated. And one of the reasons that it works well for that is because of the way it doesn't really have an initiative system. It breaks movement up into this. It's got this impulse chart is what it's called. It breaks every turn up into 32 impulses, and you act a number of times. Your ship moves a bunch of times equal whatever speed they're moving at, basically. And every impulse you have an opportunity to do stuff even if you didn't move. And so you're not rolling dice for initiative, which means that it's not you move, I move. It's broken up, which is why Battletech doesn't work as a one-on-one game very well. Because if you keep winning initiative, you get a huge advantage.
Yeah. I will say that the I go, you go, I go, you go thing, like I do all my stuff, then you do all your stuff thing, tends to make for a more balanced game.
It doesn't. Well, it depends. The big thing is that in
The
Starfleet
first turn
battles,
advantage is the big thing.
it's a huge thing, honestly.
Yeah.
The reason it works well in Starfleet battles is because who acts first in a turn. I believe weapons fire is considered simultaneous, if I remember correctly. But that's basically how it works in almost every game. So,
Right.
actually, it might not be. It's been a long time since I've played Starfleet battles, but you determine order of initiative by it's based the who acts first and it moves for who. If you both of you move on the same impulse, the person who's moving faster has the advantage, basically.
Mm.
And since that's a fixed rule, you can plan tactically around it, which makes sense.
Yeah.
At any rate, so I've been working on a mech combat game over the past bunch of years. As I originally wrote it, I wrote it with sort of like Warhammer and a lot of war games, with tabletop war games, where it's based on movement and range. And all it's based on free-form movement and tape measures and measuring distances. And since we're in the States, we use inches and feet
Because fuck you, rest of the world.
because apparently the metric system just never caught on, despite that it's technically actually what the measurement system the country is supposedly actually supposed to be using officially.
Really?
Yeah, it was
Seriously?
it was signed into law in the 70s.
Which is why everything's still posted in miles.
Because everyone decided that fuck that, we're going to ignore this. Apparently,
Screw you, rest of the world.
basically, yeah. At any rate, so that's what I did originally. I've been thinking about shifting it over to hex-based, though, because the rules as written don't read as well as I'd like them to, especially for dealing with moving through terrain and such.
Right.
And actually doing it in hexes would actually make codifying that a lot easier, in my opinion. And that's part of the reason I want to do that.
Yeah, I just precision movement, precision like measurement of movement is definitely something that hexes have over free measure, but free measure has precision placement of models. So that you can place things as long as you have the movement exactly where you need them in relation to everything else.
Yes, except that if you at all, it also means that if anything happens at the table, things will get moved and you'll never get them back to the exact same position.
Yeah, so don't let your cat on the table.
Uh-huh. Or don't let
That's
anybody
ever
walking
happened
by, right,
at all.
or don't let anybody walking by bump the table by accident, or don't accidentally knock your model over.
And don't eat your opponent's models.
Well, that's always a good thing.
That's always a good thing, because, yeah, especially back in the day when they're actually
Made
like
of
cheaper than lead.
Yeah. And it's also a problem if you change your mind and where you want to move something.
Yeah.
So that's it's like you start moving like, no, I don't want to move that there, and oh crap, where was I originally? Fuck. That's the. I mean, I totally grok why you prefer the freeform movement. And in a vacuum, I do also.
Yeah.
But the part of me that's been playing hex-based miniatures war combat games since the mid '80s, sort of just feels more comfortable with hex-based stuff.
I gotcha. And that's the best argument you've given, is that you feel more comfortable with hex-based stuff. Because you've played a lot of it, and that's cool. And that's largely why I like free measure, because I've played a lot of it, and that's what I'm comfortable with.
Totally understandable. So, yeah,
Also, Aliens is a better movie than Jaws, and what was the other thing that we argue about all the time?
any number of things, honestly. All right, so that was that's one of the things I've been working on, and there are any number of reasons. I mean, we were talking a little bit before we started recording about the other reason why I tend to prefer the other minor reason, and it's the one thing I do really like about hexes is it means that you don't ever run into the problem of, if you're playing against somebody who makes liberal use of fudging with their tape measure, shall we say?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, tape measures are really easy to use, and it's very simple to measure things. I mean, occasionally, like the model will hang over the base, and that can cause problems. But it, when you're up to a half-inch off measuring something, it's clearly not just incompetence. There's definitely it's not that hard, motherfucker.
Yeah, that's sort of my take. I agree, but using hexes means I can limit that sort of problem.
Yeah, it does really limit that, because it completely eliminates that problem.
It eliminates that problem. It makes adjudicating what terrain is giving you cover. You don't have to think about that. You don't have to there's no arguments about that.
Or you could use codified base sizes, which and cover of a particular height works on base sizes of this particular size, but that would require you to codify base sizes, and what long-standing British company would ever want to do that?
Yeah. Right. And also, okay.
I've been spoiled by Warmer Hordes in that regard.
Yeah, and also there's also sort of is this terrain covering up half of the base or not? Because how much wiggle room do you want to give on that, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And it's all stuff that you can handle in a free movement system, and I have no problems with that. But it's simpler to do. I find it simpler to do it with hexes.
Yeah, and you only ever run into that kind of ass-hattery, which is basically what it is in the tournament scene.
For the most part, yeah. Or if you're playing against people you basically should never actually play against.
I've found that people that do that tend to not play for very long. Because they'll either break that habit and therefore don't count as that guy anymore.
Or they run out of opponents. Right. So that's sort of the first decision I made. That's one I'm still working on. But the first sort of decision I made in designing the game is, as I said, one of the things I wanted to do was to speed the game up.
Yes, because Battletech's a great game, but it is easy to get bogged down in all manner of minutia.
So that meant I couldn't keep the each part of the mech takes damage, and then you can saw limbs off and all that stuff, which is really fucking cool.
It is, and you could probably do that by just liberally stealing the grid system from War Machine.
Yeah, but I went a different way.
Which is perfectly cool, also, because someone's going to look at that and go, hey, look, they stole the grid system from War Machine.
Right, so what I ended up doing for this game is, mechanically the way it works is all mechs have an armor rating and what's called their structural integrity rating. And when you hit a mech, you basically roll a dot, depending on how solidly you hit the mech. Basically, there are glancing hits, normal hits, and devastating hits. If you make your hit roll by a fuck ton, you get basically what it is. You take the firepower of the weapon and add either a D3, a D6, or I think it's
what
D10.
was it? I've got it open in a tab.
It's
just
D10.
a matter of D10. Okay.
Yeah. You guys add a D3, a D6, or a D10, depending on whether it's a glancing, normal, or devastating hit to the firepower of the weapon. If that total exceeds the armor rating of the mech that you hit, of the unit that you hit, let me double check my wording on this. Right. Okay. So if it exceeds the armor rating of the target, you roll a D10 and consult a chart. Most of the time, it'll just lose a point of structural integrity. If you roll high enough in the chart, you also get a critical. You get to roll on a critical hit chart, basically.
Right.
The
critical hit chart. The thing dozier of the 90s.
Yeah, given what I'm trying to do with the game, it's important.
No, it makes perfect sense in that case.
Right. So, the other important bit is that if it's a glancing hit, you subtract 2 from the die roll on the damage result chart, and if it's a devastating hit, you add 2 to it. So you either reduce or increase your odds of getting a critical hit.
Right.
And then the critical hit chart, it's again has the same thing. If you actually get a crit with the glancing hit, you're less likely to get the really nasty stuff, and if you get a critical with the devastating, you're more likely to get the nasty stuff. Simple, straightforward. The other important rule is that if the damage that you get, the firepower plus the damage rating of the attack, exceeds the sum of the armor and current structural integrity of the mech, it's destroyed.
Yeah, blows up the mech. That makes perfect sense.
So if you get a gigantic, it means that you slowly wear the mech down, and eventually, if you get hit with a big hit, the mech will just be removed from the game. Again, this is all done with the intent of allow you to play with multiple mechs and have multiple units and have the game move quickly.
And it's still a game system that probably wants you running like maybe 4 to 6 mechs as opposed to 30 to 100.
I would say that it's maybe somewhere between 4 and 10 at the most would be my guess. I'm not sure. I haven't done enough playtesting on to know. I need to get to doing that. Is the thing. And so that's sort of the main thing. And so, other than that, mechs have, they've got movement speed. They've got movement speeds. They either can move at cruising or flank speeds. At cruising speeds, you're more maneuverable. At flank speeds, you move faster. But you get less ability to turn. And you're also more accurate if you're moving slowly or not moving. If you're moving at flank speed, you can only fire one weapon on the mech. Stuff along those lines. The faster you're moving, the less accurate.
The less other shit you're doing.
Right. Exactly. Actually, if I remember correctly, you can fire multiple weapons if you're moving at flank speed, but you suffer a big hit penalty. And then for what I did from there at this point, as I designed a bunch of, basically threw together a few stat profiles for a couple of mechs of different sort of sizes, and then created a bunch of weapons and special systems that you can. And the mechs the ones that mechs I currently have are modular. They have a certain number of weapon mounts, and you can use whatever. Basically, like one of them has a heavy weapon mount, 3 medium weapon mounts, and a melee weapon mount. And you've got a few options, like you can trade 2 medium weapon mounts for an additional heavy mount, or you can trade a medium mount for 2 light weapon mounts, or what have you, etc., etc. And then you can basically plug in whatever into. And I don't have any
play.
Right. This it's plug and play, but I haven't gotten to the point of like assigning point values or anything because again I don't know what how balanced things are yet.
Right.
And so basically, this is all, and it's based. The system is based on, if I remember correctly, I'm going to check this. Look at the stats for the mechs. So if I remember how I worded this, yeah. So basically, the mechs have all the units have profiles, which are the base target number you need to hit. And you're trying to roll less than. You're trying to roll less than their profile. On. So basically, if you've got penalties, you're effectively increasing their profile, and if you get bonuses, you're effectively reducing their profile. No, it's the other way around. Bonuses increase their profile, penalties reduce their profile, and then you're trying to roll less than the profile of the target.
Yeah, yeah. Like if you have a bonus to hit because you aimed or someone painted the target or something like that, then that increases their profile for targeting purposes.
Exactly, and that makes it easier to hit. The other thing is that because it's multiple mech, I had to come up with some sort of initiative system, and I'm actually moderately proud of the initiative system I came up with because I kind of like it. So basically, the way it works is that you roll a die for. I'm mostly using D10s in the system because I decided I wanted to use D10s.
As legitimate a design choice as any other.
It's a percent. It's effectively it's a little bit more granular than using individual D6s, and I didn't want a bell curve for the.
Right.
Well, it might have used a bell curve for the hit rolls. I forget. I'll have to look that. It's been a long time since I've looked at the rules, but. The initiative is basically you roll a d10 for each unit you have in your force, and then one additional d10. Once you roll them, you assign the dice in secret to each of the units, and that die is the unit's initial result for that turn. The last rating die is your quote edge rating, And so basically, you then therefore activate. Then this turn starts, and all units with initiative result of 1 are activated. And the player with the highest edge rating determines the order of the activations in case more than one unit has initiative 1, and so on and so forth. And you go through all units with 2, all units, and when you do it, activate a unit, you do its movement and its weapons fire and all that stuff. And then you do this for all the units on 2, and then all the units on 3, and so on and so forth, until all units have been activated. Check to see if the scenario victory conditions have been met. If they have, game ends. Otherwise, reset everything, and this turn ends, and keep going. And it's. I thought that was a fairly clever system for determining initiative, because it means that you can basically. You're not entirely at the whim. It's while it's random, you still have some control over what activates.
You still get to determine what mech acts when.
Right.
And it allows for quote real-time reaction to what your opponent is doing.
Right. And I thought that was kind of clever. And that's basically beyond that. I've got the rules for movement and weapons fire and some weapon types and a few special abilities that you can special systems that you can give a weapon system for that aren't actually weapons. And so on and so forth. Their mechs have sensor ratings also, which allow them to either make themselves harder to hit or make it easier for them to hit or what have you. And it should be a fairly decent. Again, it needs playtesting, but
right. The hope is a decently balanced game.
A decently balanced skirmish level mech combat game that will move reasonably quickly, which is what I was aiming for.
Yes.
Now.
That is the goal.
You'll notice something that I have not done yet.
Points values?
Well, yeah, there's that, but I have not defined a game world at all yet.
Yeah, there's that.
All we know is there are giant robots that shoot each other.
Giant robots are really cool.
Right. And that's part of the thing I wanted to bounce ideas off of you, Eric, actually.
Okay.
Is, game world ideas, because designing a game world for a war game is a little bit different than designing a game world for a role-playing game.
Yes, because there has to be a reason for the conflict,
right?
And you're dealing with much bigger concepts than you are.
But more importantly, there has to be conflict.
Yes,
of some sort. Otherwise, why is it a war game? Additionally, there are things you don't have to worry. For at least for the basic design of the game world, there are certain details you need that you don't need in a role playing game, and vice versa. Like specific details in individual people in the universe is great to have in a war game, but it's not as important initially.
Yeah.
Whereas for a role playing game, you're going to need some NPCs that players are going to interact with. You're not interacting with these PCs. You just need to have basic Like knowing who leads a particular faction in a war game is nice. It gives you sort of flavor for the faction, which is always important. Because otherwise
Let's okay, so let's keep it, since it's definitely a planet-bound game. Let's keep it relatively planet-bound.
Right. Well, okay.
So,
yep.
Oh, I was going to do the whole pseudo-medieval giant mech things, but that's way too BattleTech.
That was one thing I wanted to avoid, actually, specifically.
Yeah, because I was going to suggest you can have Mecha Knights and Man-at-Arms tankers, and I just described friggin' BattleTech.
And it's entirely possible that one of the factions is that way.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, is that the rules as written don't specify just mechs. It specifies units for all these things. So you could very easily have units be tanks or infantry, and so on and so forth. Although I probably would avoid infantry for the most part because that's a little bit trickier.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more ground pounders than there are mechs.
In theory. But yeah, you can easily have tanks, and if you want to make tanks less good than mechs, you can, or you can make them better if you want to. For some factions, they might be better. Some factions might not even have mechs.
Yeah, they might just rely on tanks.
Right. And that's one of the things I actually kind of like about this conceptually is it allows for that sort of flexibility.
Well, here's an idea. How about you have several human factions and then an AI machine intelligence faction.
That's entirely possible.
And that's actually the part of the big conflict. It was AI happened and everyone lost their shit, and now they're all fighting over what's left with mechs.
Possible. Yeah, it depends on whether we want this to be sort of, yeah, there's that.
Post-apocalyptic or whatever, and we could doesn't even have to be Earth. It could be on another planet.
Oh, absolutely.
That's been for one reason or another isolated from Earth.
Oh yeah, and the other thing is, if I really want to have it be sort of interstellar, you can easily do that.
Yeah,
and this is just the big thing is that if with interstellar games, the one thing, if it's like if there is a significant aspect to traveling through space, there has to be a reason why it's space combat doesn't why ground combat's still important.
Yeah,
because
one obvious one is friggin' the equivalent of the Geneva Conventions. You don't orbitally bombard planets because that's bad.
Right. Well,
just like you don't use chemical weapons.
Right. That's entirely possible. Or maybe just there's that. Also, it's very hard to actually take cities and such from space without just threatening to blow them up.
Yeah. Infantry are always going to have a place in warfare because you need to be able to take and hold objectives.
Right. But I'm agreeing with you. I think limiting the effectiveness of... So, basically, my thought process on it is even if we wanted to do that, you can easily come up with rules for space, having being able to call down sort of space assets during the fight. So you could
their fighter strafing runs or orbital laser blasts.
Exactly. One of the things I thought of is, and I think there's another game I read the rules for that might have influenced this. I don't remember. Actually, no, it was. There was a game published by the people who made Babylon 5 Wars called Gropos, which was the ground combat in Babylon 5. And if I remember correctly, in that you could pay points to get, you could pay points from your army for space assets, and basically you could pay points to to arrange for either orbital strikes from orbiting ships, or strafing runs from fighters or what have you. And I was thinking that something like that, you could do something like that if you want to. And basically the general assumption is that if a ground battle's taking place, that means that whatever's in orbit is roughly evenly matched.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Because otherwise, if you have space superiority, it's very hard to maintain a fight on the ground where you're not in deep trouble. Now, whether we want to do that or not, I don't know yet. I kind of like the idea of it being at least somewhat interstellar, even if it's not huge, gigantic galaxy. Even if it's just a few star systems that are at war with each other.
Okay, that makes sense too.
So which means that maybe there isn't a lot of whatever weapons that ships use in space combat, in ship-to-ship combat, aren't especially suitable for ground bombardment without
major ecological damage.
Right.
Which everyone wants to avoid because there are only so many planets that they can actually live on.
Right.
Except for maybe the machine intelligence, who gets better space assets for use on ground combat because they don't care.
If we want to do that, yes. The machine intelligence. I definitely. The question is whether we want non-human aliens in it. That's sort of
Yeah.
The advantage to that is
an artifact that left over from BattleTech. I'm inclined to leave aliens out of this. Actually,
I can see that. Although having aliens means that they might have very different thoughts on what is the appropriate way to build a mecha.
Which is exactly why we're trying to keep things fairly modular and across the board, which is a good idea for game balance.
I wasn't talking about mechanically. I was talking about just aesthetically.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
So, mechanically, there isn't much difference between, the human bipedal walkers and, the insectoid alien race. The insectoid alien race is, spider bots.
Yeah.
And the AI race probably favor things that are favor tank-like things because they're robots. They wouldn't really their AIs. They don't really think about bipedal versus limbs versus whatever. It's like
No, they use tripods because we need tripods in there somewhere.
maybe they might have. Yeah, who knows? But yeah, so I like your idea of the AIs, though. I really do, actually.
Yeah.
I think the AIs being a sort of one of the. I think we need at least. I guess I want at least 4 factions.
Yeah, 4 sounds about right. Because that
four or
gives
5.
you. Yeah, 4 or 5. 4, I think, is probably 2 or 4 are probably the minimum. Things get weird at 3.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But like 2 or 4 is probably where you want to go. You can throw in a 5th later on.
But let's start with 4 for the time being. So we got the AIs.
We've got the AIs, and let's do at least one like pseudo-feudal like Mecha Knight faction.
All right, so one of the human factions are the Terran Empire. Is the Terran Empire?
Yeah.
I like that. So it's old. It's basically they're taken over. When humanity spread to the stars, one group of them basically ended up founding a aristocratic sort of quasi-feudal society, and they're the ones who've retaken old Earth.
Mm.
Like there's a Dissapora, humanity left Earth, and the ones a group that was dissatisfied with the ones who. And a group of them basically founded like an empire and reclaimed old Earth for whatever reasons. Or actually, no, the AIs have old Earth.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Of course, the AIs have old Earth. That's where AI was born. That makes perfect sense.
I like it.
Yeah, we've got the pseudo feudal Mecha Knights.
Yep.
And you always have to have at least one faction of religious fanatics. And that's their big deal. They're trying to unite humanity back under a single banner to go and kick the AIs off of Earth because Earth is holy.
Right, and whereas the Empire doesn't really care. They're like,
yeah, the Empire doesn't care.
We're
The
in conflict with the AIs, not because we dislike them or we distrust them or they're evil, but because we're in competition for resources.
Yes.
We'd be very happy to, if there was some way we could find a way to, get the stuff we need without fighting them, we'll do that. But the AIs don't seem to be interested in negotiations right now, for reasons.
I think making the feudal system race another set of warmongers more interested in conquering humanity under their banner.
Well, that's their big conflict with the religious faction.
Right.
But
then you have the Confederation, who is much more of a more contemporary style government. And they're the ones who are like, you guys are all fucking idiots.
Yep, I know. I agree with that. Yes. No. So the Empire wants to forcefully unite humanity under its banner.
Yes.
And they don't really care either way about the AIs. And if the AIs wanted to submit to their authority, they're fine with that.
If they don't, then they will be destroyed,
right.
As is the way of empires.
Exactly. It's like, oh, well, if you guys, it's not that we don't dislike you. If you want to be functioning members of the Terran Empire, welcome to the Empire. Oh, you don't?
You will, of course, be serfs.
Well, that's because they haven't earned their way to any they haven't earned their way to any nobility yet. Maybe some AI, if the AIs, and that's the thing.
And there would probably be a fair amount of prejudice from the aristocracy because they're not even peasants. Look at them. They'd
be very confused by them. Yes.
They can't have any noble blood. They don't have blood.
Exactly. And the religious nuts want to wipe out the AIs completely because they're
right.
They're an affront to their religion.
Yeah. You can give them a sort of pseudo-Luddite feel, but they still use tech because hypocrisy.
Well, it's sort of much like the sort of attitude towards AIs in the Dune universe.
Yeah.
Thou shalt not make a machine in the,
Thou shalt not make a machine that thinks in the manner of a man, I think was the...
Yeah, I think that's how it's phrased. So and artificial intelligence is basically the problem with the artificial intelligence is it's basically you're playing God.
Yeah.
Only
Well,
God
that,
can
the
make
whole AI rebellion and the Dune history.
Well, yes, but the official reason is it's an affront to God. And then we got the sort of the Confederation or what have you want to call them.
Yeah. Federation, the Federation.
Confederation, hegemony, whatever. We'll think of something.
Moscow Incorporated Trade Alliance.
Who knows? Yeah, they could be. It could be a corporate faction too.
Actually, I like that idea. It's actually a corporate conglomerate.
All right. I like that. I like that.
They're an independent corporate conglomerate.
All right,
that
has suddenly found themselves having effectively become a nation.
Yeah,
because of the war between the empire and the religious, the religious.
Not even suddenly. It's just like, okay, we've achieved monopoly. Now, where do we go to expand our markets? Aha, these idiots.
But again, they weren't even. I like the idea that originally they weren't even thinking about themselves as a nation.
Right. It just sort of happened.
It's like all of a sudden they're like, wait. All of a sudden, people are coming here because they're fleeing either the feudal society that they don't like in the empire, or the religious oppression in the what we're called the Protectorate for now, but it's something else. It's something else. I just can't think of a good name right now.
You say that just made me realize we just friggin' described the Protectorate of Men off.
Oh God, yeah, of course we did, to a certain degree. I do think we do need. I'm at this point wanting an alien faction just to shake things up.
Okay, so we've got AIs, we've got the 3 human factions, and space ducks because BattleTech.
What?
You don't remember the space ducks from the one really terrible novel?
I missed that novel, and I'm very happy that I did. Holy crap! It's a BattleTech novel I wasn't aware of.
It's got space ducks in it.
What?
That was why Goon Squarm and
MechWarrior
Online would go around screaming squawk.
Of course. That explains everything. Except that it doesn't! Alright, well, so, okay, we're not they're not going to be space ducks, sorry. Oh, no, our friend Peter Shaw in the chat, Clark1, says they're chickens, not ducks. Which makes
so
Squawk
we're not going to have a murderous Scrooge McDuck then.
No. And, honestly, makes Squawk make more sense than, than it would be if a duck. Ducks don't squawk.
You have not hit one properly, then.
I've never hit a duck! Also, my friend Peter's threatening to loan her to me. If you insist that you can loan her to me, you can. I won't read it. You can't actually make me read it.
Yes, we can. We just need a Clockwork Orange rig.
I'll kill you first. However, so the question is, what type of I want them to be fairly non-human.
Okay.
Because we've got.
Well, we described the giant mechanical centipedes. Why not have them be centipedes?
Centipedes, spiders, something along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't know. Centipedes.
Oh, Tachi mentions possibly stealing the some ideas from the
sci-fi game we did last week.
One. Yeah.
Yeah.
Except I have to say yes, Space Zebra. Destiny 012 is correct. We are using Space Zebra now.
Interesting.
No, the cyborg. The cyborg teddy bears could be an interesting faction, but I don't know. I want something really actually alien.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking something either insectoid or honestly, the space squids could work.
Yeah, actually.
But I'm leaning to something more insectoid, honestly.
It's probably because I just watched Edge of Tomorrow, but like the aliens in that were really interesting and unique looking. So yeah, we could use those guys.
Well, we use something else, obviously.
Well,
But
yeah, but yeah,
so,
no, we could do the space squids and just well, we could just make them like tentacled arthropods.
all right, fine. We'll go with that. There we go.
Actually, that could make some. Yeah, I'm suddenly doodling on some really interesting designs for the actual alien.
Cool. And they're
And that perfectly explains the tripods. There.
there. We go. It gives them. That's why they use tripods. And you get your tripods, Eric.
And I get my tripods. They're totally not a reference to the Martians from the original Lord of the War of the Worlds at all.
Of course not.
War tripod.
All right. So we got the factions.
Right. We've got Crazy Space Crusaders, Mecha Knights, Space Corporation, Evil AI, and Lunatic Space Squids.
All right. So the Empire, I'm sort of thinking just from a unit sort of mixed standpoint, would probably have a lot of big most of their mecha would be of the big heavy variety, supported by like tanks and stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like,
Totally
so,
go the Steiner route with them.
The knights get the mecha, and then the rest of their troops.
Yeah,
get tanks.
they're yeah.
And
like from a visual point of view, I'm thinking very, very Escaflowne.
Probably. Whereas the
complete with big ridiculous cloaks because.
Well, yeah, of course.
Of course.
They make no fucking sense, but dear God, they look cool.
And you can put your heraldry on them. Yeah.
And the crusader, the religious crusader types, they probably have just a fairly balanced mix.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that of the human factions, the corporate guys probably have the best tech.
Yes. And I imagine they use a lot of the lighter mechs.
Yeah, they use like a light.
The chassis is quick and easy to produce, and it can accept a lot of their wackier shit.
Right. So they've got the cheaper stuff, and they like a lot of EW stuff, electronic warfare stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, the EW stuff, the really heavy EW stuff, is probably going to be the AIs.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're big into electronic warfare because they're really good at it. Also, because they're terrified of people like using.
If it gives us headaches, then it must really mess with their shit.
I like it. Also, they're actually they also probably they probably focus heavily on ECCM, electronic countermeasures, because humans discovered, well, if we use ECM, it really fucks with them. The AIs are like, yeah, that literally gives us headaches.
Yeah, so no,
we must have defenses against that.
I kind of want to see the AIs using a lot of no game effect, but I want to see them using a lot of gravimetrics, so like war saucers or like just mecha torso on like columns of
sure
anti-grav.
Yeah, they probably. I think I was noodling on rules for contragrav stuff just as just for a change of pace, but that's something to come back to.
Well, I'm more thinking just as an aesthetic thing. There doesn't need to be any real.
Well, the big thing is that if you're using contragrav, logically there's certain terrain types you wouldn't be slowed down by.
Yeah,
so they wouldn't be affected by rough ground, basically.
Give them amphibious. Give them Pathfinder.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah,
that's not important right now. And then the aliens.
I think the aliens should be really fast.
They're probably fast, and they probably don't actually use much in the way of tanks.
Yeah, I'm thinking that
they probably use almost exclusively walkers.
Yeah, I'm thinking they're the glass cannon faction.
Okay,
they're fast. They hit really hard, but they can't take a hit.
Okay, I like it.
They're all about the blitz and the hit and run.
Okay, we got it. And we've got the basic themes for each of the factions.
Yeah, because we've got. Yeah, because the mech faction, like the big stompy mech faction, are the knights. The combined arms are the religious fanatics. The Mook Swarm is the corporate guys. The AIs are Dirty Tricks faction with all their
Right.
ECM and ECCM.
Something along those lines, yeah. And then the fast glass cannon faction of the aliens.
Yeah.
All right.
Shit. I think I'm playing the friggin' Knights.
I think you are, actually. Because that means you get the biggest, baddest mechs.
Exactly.
But you don't get as many of them.
It's okay. I've got big, bad mechs. Yeah, it's either the corporate or the Knights for me.
Yep.
It's either Goon Swarm or Big Rompin' Stompin'.
All right, so we've got a basic concept for a world for this game. And I don't know if I'll end up using it, but it's a good starting point at least.
Yeah.
I have to go back through and like rewrite the terrain rules just because I'm planning on switching it over to grid based. It also means that I'll say this: going grid based means it's easier to use something like map tools to test it online.
There is that. There is that big advantage because that opens up the playtesting pool a lot.
Yep, that was part of the reason I wanted to do that. So yeah, also means playtesting. We just need to find like images and such, and get someone to draw images of mechs, and we don't have to sculpt models or find models that we think are appropriate.
Models are cool.
They are, and if this ever came to an actual tabletop, which is almost certainly won't because, yeah.
It also means we can test it when we're snowed in.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Eric. So I think that's, as I said, once I do that, I honestly think we should actually do some testing on this at some point again, because...
Yeah, I'd be down with that at some point.
I'll have to retweet the rules just so they're easier to read. There's some things are put in the wrong order in the rules, in my opinion. I've been scanning through it. I'm like, yeah, I need to reorder some of this stuff.
Yeah, I started reading the rules, and part of the problem is there's no pictures, dude.
I'm not an artist at all. Stick figures are about the limit of my artistic ability.
It was more a joke about my ability to absorb
Words.
Straight up raw data.
I know.
Which I'm not good at. I need context and or something to distract me while I'm absorbing the data.
Right. So at any rate, that's going to do that. I think that's all we're going to talk about further on this tonight. But before we go, we normally save time at the end of each show for viewer questions. We didn't get any this week. So for the last 10, 15 minutes or so, Eric, what have you been watching?
So because I've been spending so much time snowed in, I've been painting my my Pharaoh for Warmahordes.
Yeah.
A lot. And you know what's great background for that? Star Trek Voyager.
Really?
Yes. It is just interesting enough to provide background shit, and when my eyes start to bleed out of my skull, I can lean back and watch spaceships shoot each other. Also, Voyager is not the worst Star Trek. That goes to Enterprise.
No, we agreed on that during our Star Trek episode.
The problem is both TNG and DS9 are too interesting to have on the background.
Okay, I can give you that.
Because both are either so bad you can't look away or really engaging. There's little middle ground with both those series.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, we disagreed on the ordering of the original series, Next Gen, and DS9.
Yeah.
And then we agreed on Voyager and the placement of Voyager and Enterprise.
Yes. Because, yeah. Oh, gee. Voyager actually... You know what's really terrible? Is Voyager actually took more...
Risks.
Than Enterprise.
It took risks at all.
Yeah. Which it is not a risk-taking show. That just tells you like the relentless mediocrity of Enterprise.
Enterprise is relentlessly mediocre. Well, up until the final season.
Oh yeah, when they kicked out all the useless.
When Brennan Braga left, and the new guys basically said, "Okay, this whole time,
all right, no more Nazis. We're done with the Nazis. This stupid temporal Cold War bullshit.
Gone. We're gonna go look.
Let's do the Romulan War.
The Romulans fucking with the Andorians and the Tellarites. Wait, this is actually really interesting. This is kind of cool, and but everyone's left already, and the show's canceled. Oh, but it was actually getting kind of interesting now.
I will say this: Enterprise did give us more Andorians, and Andorians are cool.
I agree.
Especially seeing as I don't think they showed up at all in fucking DS9 or TNG.
They showed up a couple times in TNG, but mostly as background characters.
Yeah, and Dorians are cool.
Uh,
But yeah, I've been watching that.
yep.
And yeah, I just put it on and just have it just on Netflix and just have it just go while I paint brigands and
All right,
slaughterhouses.
and you mentioned you've watched Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, I just watched that earlier today actually, and that's actually what a disservice the marketing reps did for that movie. It's actually a remarkably like good movie and just smart enough.
I know it's based on a manga / light novel series.
Yeah,
All You Need Is
I'm
Kill.
called which I haven't read or played.
I haven't either. I know.
But I've heard nothing but good things about it.
I know that Rolo T and Wiro Time covered it on my weekly manga recap, and it sounded really interesting.
But yeah, the premise is here's kind of the cool thing. You know how Tom Cruise always plays the like sort of everyman hero kind of deal, where he's actually got like superpowers and he runs everywhere, blah 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 blah.
I wouldn't say always, but yes.
He like the first half of the movie, he is a just completely like despicable coward.
Huh.
Like he is doing everything he can to get out of fighting and running away from conflict, and he's a fucking coward, and he's a smarmy one too.
Huh.
And as the whole premise is he gets
He's caught in a time
wackiness
loop.
with aliens happens, and now every time he dies, he resets the day.
Yep.
So as he gets more confident and dies, he starts to realize starts actually living up, becoming a Tom Cruise character.
But there's an excuse for it.
Yes.
Well, it's
And yeah,
Yeah.
and it's actually a really cool way to do it because it's sort of the whole Madoka Magica thing where it's implied like they don't show every iteration, but it's implied he's been doing this for hundreds of cycles. As they try different approaches to defeat the aliens.
right. Cool. I've not been watching much stuff recently. I've been keeping up with Log Horizon and been watching the new Top Gear stuff because I'm a hopeless Top Gear addict. I admit it.
Right.
I've mostly been reading, actually. What I've been doing. So I've been rereading and rereading a bunch of specifically rereading a bunch of Rex Stout's Nero Wolfe novels, mystery novels, and I've been reading some I hadn't read before. So I've been enjoying that. I've talked about Nero Wolfe on the stream before. He's one of
Yeah.
my favorite fictional detectives. And I've been enjoying those immensely because, as I said, I've gotten my mitts on a few Nero Wolfe books I hadn't read before. So, yay.
Yay. That was cool. I've also been continuing with Durara, which I'm almost finished with the
Nice.
first run of it before I get to Durara times 2. I think I'm like 2 episodes away from finishing the first run.
Cool.
And yeah, that show's really good. I'm just a little annoyed that it's gotten to the point where, well, all of this would be solved if you three would actually sit down in the same room and fucking talk to each other.
Nice. I also noticed on Crunchyroll that I just stumbled across that this exists. I haven't watched it yet, but there's a sci-fi mini series about 6 episodes called Ozma, which is by Leiji Matsumoto.
I know that name. Why can't I remember what that name is associated with?
Starblazers,
Oh!
Captain Harlock.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I should probably watch that.
That's my take. I was like, Leiji Matsumoto. I'm watching this. I don't care. It's called Ozma, Ozma. It's sci-fi. It's apparently a space opera type thing. Shocking, I know.
I don't know where he would come up with that. It's so out of left field for him.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to watching that at some point because I love Leiji Matsumoto. Leiji's awesome. Oh gosh. Let's see. What else have I been doing? Not as much role playing as I want to because fuck snow.
Yeah.
Fuck the snow.
Oh man,
As we said,
fucking Ragnarok. It's just, yeah, it sucks. I'm probably not going to make it to game tomorrow because I'm going to be ready to murder everything from being from when. Actually, no, wait. Tomorrow's Tuesday,
Yep.
which is usual game. But you know what? If they call didn't work, yeah, I don't know. We'll find out. We'll see how things are tomorrow.
So, at any rate, guys, don't have much else to talk about really, but figured we'd sort of finish off things with that a little bit there.
Pig monsters.
So yeah, if I can get off my ass and finish the revamp of these mech rules, I might be doing sort of a sort of by invite playtest online using Map Tool at some point. I might keep it limited to a small group of people I know at first, but I'll probably open up to more people if people are interested. If you are interested, shoot us an email at surlygrognards@yahoo.com, and I'll get back to you when I decide how many people I want to do the first round of playtesting with, and so on and so forth. Assuming that I get this done.
Yeah, because once you do the revamp, it's going to be mostly just getting the core rules down before you start differentiating.
Oh, it's good. It's the playtesting is the early playtesting is going to be with the generic modular mech chassis I've got written up right now, and the weapon systems I've got in the game right now. Just to try to shake the rules down first. It won't be any of the factional stuff yet. But if you're interested in that or anything like that, playtesting, please let us know. surlygrognards@yahoo.com. If you've got questions, as I said, we try to save time at the end of each episode for viewer questions, if we get them. We love getting questions, but we love answering your questions. So if you want to get those to us, please feel free to email them to us. Our email address, as I said, is surlygrognards@yahoo.com, surlygrognards@yahoo.com. Or you can post them on our forums, which you can find at mechagm.forumer.com. If you've got show topic suggestions, which we love getting those, feel free to send them to either of those places.
We really love those.
Yes.
Holy crap, could we have used some of those this week?
Yeah. Or if you've got feedback for us, constructive criticism, how we can make the show better. We love getting that. Please
we also
send it
love
to us.
that.
So yeah, let us know. We record the show every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern here on twitch.tv/mechagm. I tweet out when the show's going to go live. Just keep it on my Twitter. My Twitter handle is @mechagm. And that is basically it for this week, I think. I've covered the usual show spiel, right?
Yeah, I think that's the entire spiel.
Well, if I forgot something, sorry. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you had fun. I hope you found this discussion interesting or helpful, or you get something useful out of it, or at least you were entertained by it. Let us know, and we'll see you guys soon. And guys, until next week, guys, be happy, be safe, keep on gaming, and we'll see you guys soon. Take care and have a great rest of the week.
Bye, humans. Enjoy your not snow.